joking too, sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
Well.
That's the sound of a party about to begin, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. We're on show number 371. That means we've done
That's a lot.
370. Now we're 371. And Ian has
You would think that puts us one closer, like one past halfway to 400.
Yeah.
And mathematically, it almost does. Yeah.
It's good to know. 400 is actually going to be coming up pretty soon here.
That's a little scary.
We're not doing a big thing for 400. We definitely will plan something for 500, though, assuming we make it to 500 shows.
I mean, I might do a big thing for 400.
Oh, well, cool. I hope I get
I
invited.
already bought my special Speedos and everything.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I don't hope I get invited.
You take that back right now.
Welcome to the program. I'm pretty sure I'm busy that day. Welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. We are so glad to have you. We do want to send out a big thanks to last week's special guest, Mr. Michael Duckworth of True Anomaly Brewing was with us last week.
Such good beer.
We had such fun.
Such good people.
Drinking his beer and congratulating him on those guys being named for the second year in a row.
Yes.
The best brewery in Texas. So that's
so good.
That's really a cool thing. Congratulations.
And that beer he brought, the Goza, that was canned that day. That was amazing.
It was so good. There was one left, and I took it home. I drank it that night. It was still just felt like it had just come out of the tap at the brewery. So it was really, really good. We'll be trying some beers this week. From the Boston Beer Company, Samuel Adams. We'll be trying their Breakaway Blonde Ale.
Nice.
And so we'll look forward to that. From Equilibrium Brewery. We've had these guys' beers before. From Middletown, New York. We'll be trying their double IPA called Above the Clouds. So very lofty aspiration.
Very lofty title, yes.
Yeah, so. And then we've done this one before, but not the most recent iteration. 11 Below Brewing Company from right here in Houston, Texas.
Make good beers.
They have released their 2023, actually they released it a little bit ago, but the 2023 Big Mistake. They release a seasonal every year, and it's a barrel-aged stout, and I know we did the 2022 and the 2023, and we really did like both of those.
There's another company, that like local brewery, that they have a really nice core line. I really love. They have a beer called Oso Bueno. It's just so good. It's an amber.
Yes.
So fantastic. And then they also, but they're seasonals. They have a few seasonals that are so good. They have one called Goat Getter that's a Bock.
Yeah, it's a Bock.
Fantastic. They have their Oktoberfest. It will rival anything.
Yes. And what's interesting that we're having one of their beers this week, because I just read this week that brewery is for sale. It's not going out of business necessarily, but they've got it up for sale. So I was wondering if you have any cash.
I have a little bit of cash.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe we could pool our resources and buy 11 Below. What do you think?
Wouldn't that be nice?
we could do special Smokin' and Toastin' releases every year.
Drink all we can and we sell the rest.
It could be that's right, the 11 Below Brewing Company 2023 Smokin' and Toastin' Big Mistake is what we could call it.
I'd hate to have to explain to your wife, though, that you fell into a vat of beer and fought me so hard before I could save you.
Before you could save me and get me out of there. Yeah. Help, save me in like 20 minutes.
It's been contaminated. I need to drink it all now.
Yes, that's right. We can't sell this now. So if you just bottle this up for me, I'll take it home.
That's right. This has been aged on whiskey barrels and cruise.
Yeah, that would probably only be palatable to me. So I should, in fact, take all of that home. We'll also be trying a really interesting rum this week. It's the Ron Cartavio XO 18-year Anjos rum. It's a rum from Peru. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you
For
think
those
about
of you
this.
who truly believe that there are a lot of people named Ron that make rum.
Yeah.
Ron is actually just the word for
It
rum.
means rum in Spanish, yeah. So it's like rum.
I mean, I
Cartavio.
say that, but when I was younger, that's what I thought. I was like, there's a lot of people
There's
named
a lot
Ron.
of people named Ron in the rum business, yeah. So anyway, we're looking forward to having you guys try that. Speaking of trying things, we have already poured and passed out this week's beverage of mystery.
The bomb.
The bomb, yes. The beverage of mystery is something we do almost every week here on the show, where one of us will bring in something, a beer, an ale, a canned cocktail, a beverage of some sort, and sometimes a hard seltzer even. And we all taste it with only the person who brought it knowing what it is, and then we do the big beverage
reveal.
of mystery, big reveal. Yes. So it'll be curious to see what you think
interesting
of today.
nose
Yeah,
to
it does. What is that? Dates and raisins or
this
something? This is.
It is interesting, yeah.
It's yeah.
It is. It's like dark fruit with pits.
Yes. Yes. Maybe some
It's
cherry.
wine
in there, I don't know.
smelling almost.
Yes, it's wine smelling.
And I just took the first sip. It's a little wine-ish in terms of the mouthfeel, too.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah.
Your thoughts, sir?
It's like it's got a little bit of bubbles to it.
Mm-hmm. Not a lot, but a little bit. Especially on the finish, you kind of get that
It's like a winey champagne.
bubbliness on the tongue, yeah.
Interesting.
Some apple, maybe?
Yeah. There's an interesting bitterness on the end that took me by surprise. I wouldn't say it's unpleasant, but it took me by surprise for a moment when I took a big sip.
See, I didn't find it too surprising. I don't know why. I felt like the bitterness at the end.
So this is drinkable. It's a little sweet.
You ever get one of those tiny cans? They're like that big around and that tall of apple juice?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Reminds me a little of that, the
Yes.
consistency and the flavor.
Yes.
So,
It's interesting. It's not undrinkable.
yeah. So here's your reveal.
You have it in your
As I pull it out of my pocket. That way I don't have to bend down.
That's
and
where you
jump
keep
out
it.
of the chair. Yeah.
I thought you were happy to see me.
Is that a beer in your
I got a
pocket?
beer in my pocket. We are trying Ash Elm Cider Company's Cider of the Month. It is a maple bourbon smash, and it was their
Wow.
cider of
so-
the month for January.
Cider was tickling my brain a little bit. The apple thing is there. But there's
Yeah.
something in there that just couldn't get.
They say every cider from Ash and Elm is made with care, and this is really small print, and I'm really old, to provide a balanced and nuanced something.
I got high-powered glasses on.
Yeah, go for it.
My friend, each month, Ash and Elm Cider Company releases a new cider of the month. These limited releases allow our cider makers to explore new flavors, techniques, and provide our fans with varieties they can't get anywhere else.
Huh.
Oh, never from concentrate. Naturally gluten-free. Our ciders are made with fresh-pressed regional apples, whole fruits, and all-natural ingredients. For a cider, I'd say it's pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
not my favorite cider I've had, but it is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I like ciders.
Austin East ciders,
Mm-hmm.
I think, is one of my favorite ciders because it's not sweet. It's not so sweet like up front like this is.
Yeah.
There's a dryness to it. It makes it a lot
Even
easier.
just their regular cider, they're like one that's not a flavor, just a cider. That is so drinkable.
Remember the hop cider they had? That was
Yeah, it
really,
was
really nice.
quite
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Ciders are an interesting thing. Every once in a while, I like one. The problem with ciders is a lot of them are way too sweet. This is not way too sweet. It's just a little too sweet for me. But
It is
also
a little
drinkable.
Sweet, yes. Terry, your thoughts?
I like it. I mean, I think I would drink it. I'm a cider person. I like the different ciders. So you're right. It's not too sweet. You have to be careful with that because that'll give you a tummy ache like you ate too much candy.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I love that they put ingredients on here: apple juice, cane sugar, maple syrup, malic acid, orange zest, and sulfites.
See, and now that you say maple syrup, I think that's what gave it that darker smell. That what I was thinking that was
It
dates
was
and
the
raisins. I
dates
don't
and-
know.
yeah.
It was some maple syrup
Totally.
in there.
It's
yeah.
funny that it comes across kind of like a wine, though.
Yeah.
in some
Yeah,
ways.
it really sort of presents mouthfeel and initial sort of vibe like a
Yeah.
wine. Very interesting. Very interesting. I would be curious to try some of their other ciders of
Yeah,
the
for
month because
sure.
it seems like they get a bit experimental. And
Agreed.
I like
I think this would be worth exploring to see what else they do.
Yeah.
Ash and Elm. Want to say
Ash
I bought
and
that
Elm.
at Specs. So
Okay.
Produced
something
and
you should be
packaged
able to
at
find.
Ash and Elm Cedar Company, Indianapolis, Indiana.
I'm glad to see that a cider company is doing a cider of them. I mean, that they're doing that many different variations of it to try. I like that.
I don't know how much this costs, but bang for the buck, if you're having one can, it is 8.4% as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow,
So there you
okay.
go.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm only having 3 beers.
And it's also interesting that it comes from Indianapolis, meaning there is actually something good going on in Indianapolis.
There's
which
that place where they drive around in a circle,
yeah, that's pretty cool. And this is pretty cool.
like 500
But
times.
other than that, that's where my ex-wife lives, so I just avoid it. Generally. In fact, had I known they were from Indianapolis and I read that on the can, probably would have brought in a different
Run
mystery
the other
beverage.
way.
Yeah, run. Well, we do have some interesting things coming up on the show. I mentioned the beer and the rum we'll be tasting. We'll also be telling you about some cigars to watch for. And on today's show, 6 rules for drinking bourbon.
Rules for drinking bourbon?
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know if you knew there were
You have
bourbon
to have
rules.
rules.
Yeah, apparently so. So we'll cover those and see.
Rule number 1, drink bourbon.
Yeah,
Rule number 2, don't drink my bourbon unless you ask first.
yeah, that's pretty good.
That pretty much covers it, right?
Yeah. Well, we could come up with a few more, I'm sure. Rule number 3: never pour the last of the bottle of bourbon into your own, because I might want it.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. So, but anyway, we'll get to that. Rocky Patel's building a new cigar factory in Nicaragua. We'll tell you about that. And as I mentioned, some cigars to watch for. And of course, our quasi-popular feature that we do on this program called Drinking News. That's where we bring you stories that are sometimes, but not always, about drinking, but always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And today's Drinking News teaser headline is: when that annoying guy wants to use your plug to recharge his device. So we have that to look forward to. Coming up in our next segment, Ian is going to tell you about the cigar that he smoked this week. And we have a very interesting, we didn't do a hard seltzer today for the beverage of mystery. But one of the things that I thought was really interesting that I stumbled across this week, and we'll tell you more about this, but Stone, the beer company that has always been a favorite. I soured on them a little when they got bought by Sapporo. But it could have been worse. They could have been bought by AB InBev. So
Yeah, but they were the most vocal about like not selling out, and then they sold out.
they sold out. And not only that,
Now,
I remember like when the pandemic started, I thought, okay, I'm going to do something to support breweries that I like, right? So I went on. So I thought, I love Stone. I'll go on there. So I went on their website and ordered a Stone T-shirt from their merch department. And when it got there, when it arrived, not only was it a really cool T-shirt, which I like, had the gargoyle on it, but they also sent some stickers and coasters. And one of them said, and I'm not going to remember the exact thing that it said, but it said something like hard seltzer, where taste and something goes to die. I mean, it was like a very negative. And
taste
then
and quality ingredients go to die.
something like that, exactly. And then a year or two later, they came out with their own hard seltzer. So I thought, okay, that's you're losing a few points from me. But interestingly enough, Stone Brewing is now discontinuing hard seltzer and canned cocktails, and will be focusing strictly on beer. So we'll tell you a little bit more.
Good. That's
about
what they
that.
did best.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'll tell you my story of when I first discovered Stone beers and what a revolutionary evening that was.
Do you remember it?
Some of it, yes. So we'll get to that. We'll get to Ian's cigar review and so much more on Smoking and Toasting, show number 371. And we'll be right back. Like those drums, and I love when the horns come in. But the guitar player, I don't know. It seems like maybe something's not quite right there. Maybe it's out of tune. I don't know what it is.
When you say things like that, a little part of me dies inside. Fortunately, it's the part of me that cares.
Okay, well, that's good to know. That is absolutely good to know. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Speaking of hand-rolled cigars, I understand you had one this week that you want to share your experience with us.
This show will air a day before St. Patrick's Day. So I went.
So
and
did
bought
you do a
one
barber pole?
I did. I did the Alec Bradley Filthy Hooligan.
Nice. That is a St. Patrick's Day tradition. So I love
It is. It's fantastic. They have two of them. They have the Filthy Hooligan and they have the Shamrock, and I opted for the Filthy Hooligan. This is
by the way, that is the coolest name of any cigar available today.
And they have it under the black market label.
Right.
So they got Alec Bradley, and then Black Market's Filthy Hooligan. This is a 6x50 Toro. It's released in one size. It's 5,000 boxes only released every year. This is, I think, I don't know. They haven't been releasing it for that many years. So, but it's a fantastic cigar. That has two wrappers because it's a barber's pole, so it's a Honduran Candela and a Nicaraguan Habano Oscuro wrapper. Wound around barber pole style. The binders, Ecuadorian Sumatra. The fillers, Honduras and Panama. The appearance on this, smooth and oily barber's pole in green Candela and medium brown Nicaraguan Habano. The Alec Bradley Filthy Hooligan label and a secondary Black Market label with the firm feel overall from foot to cap. The pre-light sniff on this, sweet and earthy with some fermented hay. The pre-light draw, I used a V-cut. You're going to find that I'm using a V-cut a whole bunch recently. Because
you got a really cool new V-cutter, didn't you?
I got a lighter that has a V-cut built into it. I love it.
Yep.
Anyway, sweet, creamy coffee, fresh cut grass is what I got off the nose on that. Or off the pre-light draw on that. The initial light, sweet and nutty, fresh cut lumber, green peppercorn, black pepper, autumn leaves kind of on the lips, rich, medium density. So I put initial light on here. I did that, and then I think I ran it right into my first third of the cigar and didn't cut it. So this is just one long initial light / first third. A rich medium density smoke, smoky paprika a little bit at the back of the palate. Retro Hells, campfire and nutty with some pepper. Solid ash, good burn. Second third of this, woody notes appear with a slight vegetal undertone. Think like vegetables on the smoker kind of nose. Yeah, like when I say vegetal, I don't know if people take that as a bad connotation, but it's actually pretty good.
Well, you put some zucchini on the smoker. Dude, that is a wonderful experience. Yeah,
a little tangy, grassy aftertaste lingers a bit. Smoke rings are fun. You can see that in this video right here, or in this picture right here. Retro Hail is white pepper and wood, solid ash, perfect burn. The last third of this, the ash fell directly on me in my lap. Big ol' ash right in my lap. Nuttiness moves forward with a touch of pecan shell bitterness. Retro Ale is white pepper and wood, solid ash, perfect burn. Did I mention the ash fell right on me?
I was wondering, was that the first time that you had an ash in your lap?
It fell right on my lap. Like, it was a solid ash, too, because it went thunk. I could feel it, you know?
Yeah.
It
went thunk. I just want to...
Proposed pairing.
It was a cartoon ash.
Proposed pairing?
The proposed pairing for this cigar, I would say, would be like a Guinness Draft Stout or Samuel Smith's Nut Brown Porter.
Nice.
It would be fantastic. Nut Brown Ale. It was just porter style ale. The price to quality on this cigar cost $12.69. It was fantastic. It was fun as a barber pole. Candela always has a little different flavor that you're not used to. Give it a solid 6.
Nice. All right, I'll tell you about my cigar this week when we come back. And also, it's beer tasting time. As a matter of fact, we will first be checking out a blonde ale. It's a seasonal blonde ale from Boston Beer Company's Samuel Adams. It's their Breakaway blonde ale from Boston. We'll get to that next. It's Smoking and Toasting. I really like when you smack that bottle opener against the bottle right at the very, very beginning of that.
So all of our sound effects are done real and
they're done live. Yes.
So if I gently,
it's like the old days of radio. Yeah. Remember when they would say he rode in on horseback and there would be a guy on another microphone and clop. Yep.
Well, see if I approached it gently and then you wouldn't get the drama of it. I really
Sure,
want.
I
I really
agree.
want to bring out the drama of it, so I have to approach it like this,
It works, too.
and then you hear it engage, and then you hear the, psh, and then you hear it. The best part too is that you hear the on
cap
the-
dropping
on
on
the
the
table,
table.
yes.
I love that part. And then sometimes you even get to hear the pouring.
Sometimes you can hear it.
See, that's pretty good. You may have had to turn your volume up, but it worked.
Turn up your car radio.
It worked. So while Ian is pouring that beer, let me tell you about the cigar that I enjoyed this week. It was the Avo Syncro Nicaragua, the box press Toro. And I believe that I may have reviewed this cigar before on the show. And if my memory serves, I think I was a little disappointed by it. So if that's true, let's try another one, because Avo is too good as a brand of cigar not to give them another chance, if I am remembering correctly. The Syncro Nicaragua Box Press Toro is an absolutely beautiful cigar. Its dark brown wrapper is Ecuadorian Connecticut, the binders from the Dominican Republic, and the filler tobaccos are a mix of Ometepe from Nicaragua and filler leaves from Peru and the Dominican Republic. So I used my trusty punch cutter, and I checked out the pre-light notes. I got spice and coffee bean on the pre-light sniff, and spice, chocolate, and cedar notes on the cold draw. And once I lit the Syncro Nicaragua up, I got a small but noticeable version of the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast. And a sidebar, have you noticed how many cigars we've talked about on the show recently, over the past several months, that have some kind of a pepper blast, but not a full-on
Not the full-on
NPB?
Nicaragua
There seems to have been
pepper blast.
it seems to have been a trend. Could be coincidence, or could be that blenders are trying harder not to knock people's socks off quite as strongly in the first few puffs. I actually kind of miss the good old full-strength, feel it in my bones Nicaraguan pepper blast.
Sometimes it's the right thing.
Yeah. There was pepper, however. Make no mistake about that. In the first third, I also got a kind of a sweet creaminess, dark cherries, and roasted nuts. The second third continued with the sweet creaminess, as well as the roasted nuts continued. Pepper stayed on the finish, but I also got another spiciness, something a little like allspice, which I've never really understood. It's not really all spices, so why do they call it allspice? One of these Spice Rack's great mysteries. But if you've had allspice, you know what I'm talking about. Second third seemed to mellow out a little bit, both in strength and in the intensity of the flavor notes. But by the final third, the Syncro was back in gear, ramping up to just under full-bodied and hitting the most complex combination of flavors so far. Pepper and creaminess, coffee and nuts, and a hint of malted milk balls in the final third. A nice tingle on the tongue once I had exhaled. Very different mix of flavors from the Nicaraguan cigars, from most of the ones that I've tried. Quite a nice change of pace, I think. The cigar did require some tending. The outer wrapper did not burn as straight as I would have liked, but for some reason, I just felt like I was determined to help the Syncro along and make the experience as enjoyable as I could. Maybe I was, just feeling a little guilt for what I remembered was not a very positive review of this cigar before. I'm not sure. But what I do know is that in spite of the burn issues, I really enjoyed this one. I really wanted to be able to give it a great review. The Avo Syncro Box Press Toro is an $11 to $12 cigar. Mm-hmm. I may be getting a little picky in my old age, but I feel like at that price, you shouldn't have to tend the cigar quite so much as I did. On the other hand, I really liked it. So, price to quality. I'm going to be generous and give it a 5. And our price to quality scale is, of course, is a 1 to 10 scale, but 5 means you got what you paid for. This cigar might be a little overpriced, but maybe worth it for the unique experience in the flavor department. I did really enjoy this, and it was a wonderful change of pace. I have a tendency to smoke a lot of, Olivas and AJ Fernandez, and they all have this distinctly more earthy and chocolatey Nicaraguan tobacco flavor. This was Nicaraguan tobacco, but it was a little bit different. So anyway, I did enjoy it. I would try it again. And speaking of trying things again, we haven't had a Samuel Adams beer on the show in a very long time. And I'm excited today for us to try their Breakaway Blonde Ale. It is labeled as a seasonal. It's also labeled as easy drinking. So let's see if it lives up to the easy drinking statement here. So Sam Adams.
Is that opposed to problematic drinking?
I don't know. Difficult to drink. They should put that on. That's on like a stout that's got like 14%. It would say difficult to drink on it, but worth it. Worth
the effort.
I think the last one we tried was seasonal. I think the last Sam Adams was the Christmas.
May have
ale.
been, yeah, may have been.
Yeah.
We did it.
So
we did do it
on the nose, there's not a whole lot going on. It smells very beer-like. Just in general, almost generic. Like the flavor on this though is delicious.
It really is quite.
It's got a sweetness to it that I really, really enjoy.
Very crisp, a little sweetness on the finish. It's actually a rather lovely blonde ale.
Yeah,
it is.
Blonde ales are great for summer, and I know we're not quite there yet because here in Houston we got reasonably cool for 2 days, and then it'll be 83 tomorrow. But it feels like it's not necessarily summer yet, but this feels like it would be a great summer beer.
Breakaway Blonde Ale is coming in at 4.7%. It says easily appealing for the whole crowd with a gentle biscuity aroma. Can agree with that. And a light body. Also agree with that. This blonde ale is balanced and clean with a subtle hop touch and a quick, refreshing finish that will help it break away from other beers in the season. I have to say, this is delicious.
Yeah,
it really is.
Quite good.
Like the more I drink it, the more I like it. It's one of those things, and I liked it in the first place.
Right, exactly. I agree, especially. After the cider, which was a little bit sweet, it's nice to have something that just feels like it's a very solid beer. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I almost expect it to have a honey note to it, but it doesn't. It's just sweet. It's.
You're right.
Just kind of a sweetness that is there.
But you're right. A lot of blonde ales do have a sort of honeyed vibe to them, but this one is just very crisp. I get maybe a little bit of apple.
This almost has a floral thing going on there too. Mm-hmm. Just a touch like a sunflowery kind of.
Dig it.
It's really good.
This is one you would want to drink ice cold. This beer would definitely be better the colder it is, I would think. Would you agree
I
with
have
that?
no problems with the way it is right now.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. It's cool. It's not maybe frosty, but it's cool.
But I can see that in the summer. This would be something to reach for in the cooler.
Refreshing.
Oh, yeah.
Very refreshing. Absolutely dig it. Well, all right, good. We're off to a good start.
I'm picturing you slamming back an ice cold glass of this and then putting the glass against your forehead.
And going,
What is this, a Nestea commercial? And you fall in the pool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
you fall back into the pool. Exactly, that's what you would do. Still to come on the show, we'll try an IPA, a double IPA actually, from Equilibrium Brewery called Above the Clouds, and then from our local brewery here in Houston, 11 Below Brewing Company, their 2023 Big Mistake. And if I recall, when we had both the 2021 and the 2022 Big Mistakes, the barrel-aged stout, we were big fans of both of them. So I'm looking forward to trying this one and seeing seeing what we can come up with. I'll mention just a little bit more about Stone discontinuing hard seltzer and canned cocktails. One of the reasons, apparently, is that Stone is in San Diego, California, their brewery, and one of the reasons is that Sapporo, who bought them, are looking to enlarge the footprint of Sapporo on the west coast of the United States. So they are actually at the Stone Brewery, in addition to producing the Stone IPAs and the other stuff that they do for craft beer people, they're actually cranking out quite a bit of Sapporo as well.
I will tell you, in the right place and time, Sapporo is a fine beer.
Mm-hmm.
Sapporo,
and for me, the right place and time is anytime I'm having sushi.
Yeah, I was gonna say sushi.
Sapporo is so good.
It goes
sushi.
so well. It
really does.
Just the right things together.
All right, so just since we're on the topic, your favorite of the Japanese or Chinese beers that you've had, like there's Sapporo, there's Asahi, there's Ichiban, there's Kirin.
I think, if I remember correctly, it's probably Asahi.
I like Kirin a lot,
and then Sapporo,
because I also like Sapporo. Yeah.
So the Kirin, I think, has a tangy kind of aftertaste to it that lingers, and I'm not a big fan of. I don't think the beer's that bad, but it's just something about that thing. But I think the other two kind of finish a little cleaner. Maybe so. And then the Asahi almost has like a slight saltiness to it, which is really nice.
And I have this memory attached to Sapporo because I went to this sushi place in Los Angeles once. It was over in North Hollywood, if I remember correctly. And it was a rock and roll sushi bar. But this was a real rock and roll sushi bar. They didn't just play rock music while you eat. The waiters and the sushi chefs would get up on the counters and dance, and they would the lights above the tables would flicker on and off in this crazy.
I thought you were going to say it's like retired people like Vince Neil serving your stuff.
The last thing you ever want is any sushi that's been carved by Vince Neil. I just want to say that.
He's all out of breath with your sushi.
But no, I remember if you ordered a Sapporo there, they would bring it to your table, and 4 or 5 of them would gather around as they're pouring it in the glass and yell, "Sapporo!" Like it was this big production, like it was Shogun or something. And I loved it. It was actually, I don't remember, unfortunately, the name of this place. I just called it the Rock and Roll Sushi Bar. But the sushi was good, and the entertainment was top notch. Top notch. So, and I ordered Sapporo all night just so they'd do that again at my table. Just loved it,
Somewhere in the back, those guys are like, that bastard keeps
oh, God, we got to go yell Sapporo again. But anyway. So interesting. I am glad to see them, though, not focusing on the canned cocktails and the seltzers and really just doing beer. Sapporo, like you said, a good beer in the right situation. And Stone continues to make some absolutely fantastic beers.
Well, they should
IPAs
let Stone do what Stone does.
Every now and then, I'll go to the little shop downstairs in my building, and I'll just get a 6-pack of just regular old Stone IPA, and it never disappoints.
Nope.
It's always just consistent.
With a green IPA on it.
So there was a bar, I think they're still open here in Houston in the Montrose called Anvil, and they were really well known for their like crazy authentic craft cocktails. But I used to go there back in my single days and just sit at the bar. They also had all these taps, and the taps just had a number on them, and they had a big chalkboard that said tap number 7 is this, tap number 8 is that, and so forth. But they had a whole bunch of Stone IPAs. It was the first time I ordered an Arrogant Bastard. It was the first time I had just regular Stone IPA, and that was when I was like, I was much younger in my beer journey. Then I was like, holy cow,
yeah.
These are real serious beers. And I remember I would just go through every Stone they had on the menu, one by one, and keep trying them. So Stone is a great IPA memory for me as I learned more and more about IPAs.
That's pretty funny. The first time I ever had an Arrogant Bastard, I was at, weirdly enough, I was playing at a bar. I can't remember the name of it, but in Beaumont, Texas.
Oh, boy.
And the bar had just a couple beers on tap. I mean, this was a dingy rock and roll bar, but they had a cooler that had a few bombers and things like that. And one of them was Arrogant Bastard.
Nice.
I got talking to the guy. He's like, "Oh, you need to try this," and he hands me a bottle and it says, "You're not worthy." I was like, "I'm in."
That is such a good beer. I had it broke a while back, but I had an Arrogant Bastard pint glass that I used to pour beers into, and every time I had a beer, I would read the whole thing on the back about how you're not worthy and this beer is too
you're
good for you.
You're not going to enjoy
this. It was just great. But those were. I mean, honestly, Stone was, especially in the world of IPAs, although they made other good beers too, but they were absolutely a pioneer in the world of IPAs.
But they could also build an IPA that was so completely abrasive and ridiculous and balanced.
Yeah, and still good, right.
And that is where West Coast IPA was born, my friend.
And I will say a lot of the people who came after them and jumped on the West Coast IPA trend did not understand the balance.
They missed the balance.
Yeah, they missed that. And Stone really, in all of their beers that I've ever tried, has always gotten the balance. But I'm not kidding. If you just pick up a 6-pack of their regular old Stone IPA, it's a fabulous.
That's not even
experience.
counting like Chocovesa and a bunch of the other ones that they have.
And we've had some of their stouts that have been just absolutely noteworthy. So they're a company to, I think, continue to support, even though they're owned by a larger company now.
Well, if that larger company lets them do what they do,
at first I was
going to keep going.
Very skeptical.
Yeah,
but I've had a few Stones since then, and they've still been very, very good. It's not like the the Big and Bright grapefruit from Karbach, which used to be
outstanding,
and now is not.
And now is barely standing.
Grapefruity as it used to be. All right, we're going to take a break and we'll be back. Lots more to talk about and lots more to come in the program, including the other beers that we mentioned and a Ron Cartavio XO 18 Anjos rum from Peru that we're very excited. Plus, we will tell you, as we've been promising, the 6 rules for drinking bourbon. All of that and drinking news is on the way. It's Smoking and Toasting.
Doesn't anybody care about the rules around here?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and we have been enjoying some of all of those, well, except for the cigars, which we enjoyed earlier, so we could talk about them here on the program. My name is Cruz. My co-host is Mr. Ian Barry. On the Wheels of Steel, we have Mr. Terry Michaels, and Adam in the Sky is our producer who puts it all together and gets it all out to you. And Ian, Altares Cigar and Tobacco Company, they think that you and I are rich.
Yeah, well, they think we're dumb, too.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. Well, first they released the Monte Cristo 1935 Anniversary Nicaragua, and the retail price was in the teens.
It's great, too.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So good.
Yeah. And then came the Monte Cristo 1936 Edición Diamante.
It's like $22.
Yeah, priced in the 20s, exactly. But now, Altares is set to debut its Monte Cristo 1935 edition Doble Diamante, and stands to reason Doble, which is, kind of means double.
Yeah.
So it stands to reason they'd be double. It'd be a
$44.
$44 cigar, right? No, it's going to retail for $150 per cigar.
What?
Yeah. What the actual fudge is going on with these ridiculously overpriced, pricey cigars?
They're only halfway to 400.
How good does a cigar have to be worth 10 or more of my normal favorites?
Wow.
Think about that. I can smoke this one cigar for that price, or I can smoke like 10 of these cigars that I love that are among my favorite smokes ever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you said it's 100 and what?
Yeah, $150 per cigar. It's not just twice the price.
Wow.
It's 10 times or more.
Wow.
My favorite cigars. The answer, according to...
I can buy 8 Plasencia Almafuertes for that much.
And that's not a cheap cigar.
That's 8 special occasions right there.
Exactly. Or one special occasion for... So how good would it have to be?
Yeah, what kind of special occasion would that be for?
Right.
So probably the most expensive cigar that I smoked more than one of is the 45th anniversary Padron.
Right. And
it's
that's
35-ish, right?
Yeah, mid-30s.
And holy cow, it's worth every penny. I can't imagine that cigar is worth 6 of those.
Well, like its predecessors, first of all, the answer, according to Altares, of why this cigar is worth $150 a stick is very old tobacco. According to Rafael Nadal, who's the vice president of product capability for Tabacalera USA, all of the tobacco inside the new Doble Diamante has been aged a minimum of 10 years before it was rolled. And like its predecessors, the upcoming Monte Cristo Edición Doble Diamante is made in Nicaragua by A.J. Fernandez. Mm-hmm. And all the tobacco was grown on Fernandez's farms in Nicaragua, La Lilia and San Latano. But unlike the predecessors, which are regular production cigars, this one is limited edition, offered in one size. It's a 6.5 by 54. It comes packaged in 20-count boxes. So think about that. A 20-count box of a cigar that's worth $150 a piece. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. I just did the math. That's a lot.
Only 250 of these boxes are even being produced for a total run of 5,000 cigars. Each box, though, doubles as a humidor, and it's finished in a glossy piano finish, so at least there's that. We will be setting up a Smokin' and Toastin' GoFundMe so that we can raise money to buy one of these cigars and review it for you guys.
One each.
Yeah, details are coming soon. Smoking and Toasting, go fund me so we can buy the cigar and review it for you guys. I'm just saying. By the way, speaking of cigars that we love, one of my favorite seasonal cigars is back with a new band and a little early this year. Even though the German beer drinking festival of Oktoberfest doesn't begin for quite a few months, you'll be able to grab your Oktoberfest cigar from Quesada as early as July. They created this brand, I should say, in 2011 as a seasonal release intended to be paired with beer, German or otherwise.
And boy, does it.
Yeah, they make it at the Quesada Cigar Factory in the DR. Quesada Oktoberfest 2024 seasonal edition is being rolled with a Mexican San Andres wrapper, and the internal tobaccos are all Dominican. I'm really excited about this. I try to get the Oktoberfest every year. Some years have
I didn't get one last year.
I didn't either. And some years have been remarkably better than others.
Yes.
There's no doubt.
But they're
about
never
that.
bad.
But they're never bad. All sizes, ship in boxes of 10. Production is limited to 500 boxes. And the Kugel, which sounds like something else, comes in bundles of 10 with only 100 bundles produced, or 1,000 cigars. But they range in price from about $10 to about $12, depending on the size. So
Everything's gone up.
definitely worth checking out, though. All right, we got to take a break. We have more tasting to do here on Smoking and Toasting, including, by the way, the Above the Clouds Double IPA from Equilibrium Brewery. We will do that next. You are watching and listening to Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. I love that sound. That's just a sound of happiness for me. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Ian's pouring the craft beer. And let me tell you a little bit about some fine spirits. And ordinarily, I would balk a little bit at an article trying to tell me there are rules for drinking bourbon.
Doesn't anyway give a damn about the rules around there.
This one comes from liquor.com, and I have respect for their website. They don't usually publish these bogus clickbait type things. They usually have something worthwhile to read. So I've gone to liquor.com and assembled these rules for you. We'll see if you agree with them or not, Ian. So they found a spirit guide. I
have a spirit guide.
Owner of, right. I love spirit guides. The owner of Kansas City's Julep Bar, who has been lauded for having one of the country's most outstanding selections of bourbon. And his name is Bo Williams, so he shared his rules for picking, sipping, and mixing America's favorite spirit, bourbon. Rule number 1, he says, read the label. Learn how to decode bourbon labels. Bourbon's a very broad category. It's important to know what the wording means. For example, he always looks for the phrase straight bourbon. Straight is what you look for first and foremost when you're searching the shelves. It says it means they're not adding anything to or adulterating the product, so you're getting the real deal. So that's what it means when say straight bourbon. It doesn't mean just that you're having it in a glass without
if you pick up
water.
a bottle of T.W. Samuels and it says right on there, real bourbon in every drop.
Yeah.
But that's a percentage of the liquid that's in there.
Right. It's not necessarily straight bourbon.
Not straight bourbon.
It's kind of like, I've told this on the show before, but when I was a kid, my mom used to buy those big round cans of high C fruit drink. And it proudly said on the can, on the side of the can, in a big starburst, it said, contains 10% real fruit juice. So
Right.
it was 90% not real fruit juice. I don't even want to know. Anyway, he recommends looking for age statements on the label, although he's quick to note that you won't always find it, and especially if it's from a newer producer, that will often mean the bourbon's on the younger side. By law, straight bourbon must be aged for 2 years. So, you got at least
start
2 years.
there, yes.
Yep. Then he says, seek out value. He says, if you're spending more, this is for people who
scroll that down a second.
who are getting started in, there or there?
No, let me, that picture, the first picture that pops up. That you just had it.
Right there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Evan Williams,
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
Wild Turkey, really good whiskey.
And Four Roses.
And Four Roses, really good whiskey.
Well, so here's what he says. Especially if you're a kind of a newbie with bourbon, he says, if you're spending more than $40, you're probably doing it wrong. So, of course, if you're a collector looking for extra age Pappy or something like that, expect to pay a premium. But if you're just starting out, affordable bourbons abound, and he recommends Wild Turkey 101.
It's great.
Any bottlings from Four Roses and Heaven Hill, And Heaven Hill, of course, also includes Henry McKenna, Evan Williams, and JTS Brown, among others. We had a Henry McKenna on the show last week that you brought in. That was delicious.
It was fantastic. Yes.
And that an expensive bottle? That wasn't.
That was in the $60 range.
Okay, yeah. So
but that was also a very specific bottle.
Right, it was bottled in bond, I think, and So he also says skip the shot glass. He recommends that while bourbon flavors can be quite different from Scotch, he recommends sipping a neat pour from a Glencairn glass, and this, by the way, is a Glencairn glass, which we will be using when we try our rum a little bit later on. He said you need a glass that lets you capture the aroma, caramely, nutty, etc., to get you excited and cue up the rest of your senses. A shot glass will not enhance the experience, he says.
Plus, shooting your whiskey will not enhance the experience.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Like, just stop. If you want to do shots, don't.
In lieu of a Glencairn, he sometimes uses old-fashioned or rocks glasses.
You just said that on spring break, not to do shots.
Water is your friend, he says.
I'm not in my 20s anymore.
Water is your friend, and don't be
30s.
afraid of it. People think there's only one way to drink bourbon, and that's wrong-headed. Water is not a deal-breaker whatsoever.
I'm always fascinated at how it really does change the taste when we just add a drip of something.
And the current trend for this uncut, unfiltered barrel-strength whiskey means that most bourbons actually benefit a little bit from some dilution. Takes off the heat and spice notes and lets the sweetness shine through.
Also, there's not a distiller in the world who wouldn't say, try it with some water.
Or a cube of ice.
Or a cube of ice. The people that make this will tell you to do that. So who are you to say, man, I wouldn't drink it like that?
I don't care what you say, Heaven Hill.
You're just that guy at the bar going, I wouldn't ruin my whiskey with water.
They also say, speaking of ice, that because bourbon has big, bold flavors, a little bit of ice and water will not kill the thing. However, he's wary of small, watery pieces of ice that will dilute the spirit too quickly. I prefer to take my time, he says, and I want a similar experience from when I start to when I finish. Solid ice is never a bad idea.
Okay, so here's how you do this, okay? When you go up to a bar and you order a drink and you order a whiskey, if you're not sure what their ice is, because different bars have different ice.
Yeah.
Right? If you're not sure, just say, hey, can I get a little cup of ice on the side? And then you can select a chip of ice if you want. If I see that you have small chips of ice, I may say 1 or 2 chips. But most bartenders will listen to you. Some bartenders don't care.
Right.
They're like, whatever, and dump ice in there. But yeah, you could just ask for ice on the side.
This bartender and bar owner that is in this article in liquor.com says solid ice, never a bad idea. At home, he uses those silicone molds to freeze sizable chunks that chill effectively, but melt kind of slowly. And the final rule is try an old fashioned. It says an old fashioned can really turn people on to how wonderful a bourbon experience can be without drinking it on its own.
And old fashioned can change dramatically from whiskey to whiskey.
Ice, a little bit of sugar and bitters can help bridge the flavor profiles, make it more palatable. The goal, he says, should be to accentuate the flavors of bourbon rather than to mask them. And the classic old fashioned does that wonderfully. He wraps up the article by saying, there's no wrong way to consume bourbon. I'm kind of down with that. The only mistake is not enjoying it while you're doing it. So there you have it. The 6 rules for drinking bourbon. Simple enough. And you can find the article at liquor.com and check it out.
Nice.
So, all right. Ian has poured our next beer for us. This is one that I got my hands on from Equilibrium Brewing Company. They are a very reputable brewery located in Middletown, New York. This is their Above the Clouds.
It's got just
double IPA. It's 8%.
Just a touch of dank on the nose.
It says beer balanced by science. So let's see how they did.
Balanced by science.
Let's see how they did at getting science to balance out this double IPA.
Okay, that's really interesting.
It's a little hazy. But you get all this fruit on the end.
All right. Yeah. So the finish on this is so vastly different from most IPAs. As usually you get a bitter.
Right, you get the bitter sort of hoppy snap on the end.
The bitter in this lingers on the side of the tongue, like in the middle of the palate. And then the finish on it is kind of sweet.
Right, the finish on it is very fruity, almost like orange, a little bit of lemon, and then some pineapple, all together on the palate.
Yeah.
But that is your finish, and it really is interesting because on a lot of the juicier, hazier IPAs where you get that citrus, like if they use Citra hops or stuff, you get that more up front, and then on the end you get that a little bit of hop snap to it. This is almost the opposite of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Above the Clouds. I love the name.
It's pretty good. The artwork's really nice.
These Equilibrium guys seem to know what they're doing.
There's no other real information on here.
It does say 8%, I think, on the front.
It does, and it says, according to the Surgeon General, one should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of the risk of birth defects. Which I feel like they stole that off another can. I feel like I read that somewhere before.
May have heard that before.
But amateurs borrow professional steel and all that. It's really good. It's very drinkable.
Yeah, it really is.
I keep coming right back to it.
For a double, too, it doesn't quite. It's 8%. It doesn't strike me as quite as boozy as I was expecting an 8% to be.
So it's really interesting because it drinks right up front. The initial palate on this is very much a double. It's bold.
Yep.
It's round, and it's got the hop bitter going on. That bitter follows through to the middle of it. And then it finishes fruity and sweet. It's very strange, but it's really pretty good.
Yeah, but you're right. It is almost the opposite of how you're expecting a double IPA to drink in terms of where it hits you on the palate, when you get the citrus,
also,
when you get
double IPAs aren't usually quite as fruity as this either. This is pretty yummy. I'm for it.
Middletown, New York is where you'll find Equilibrium Brewery. If you are one of our listeners from New York, I'd love you to reach out. Our email address, by the way, is ST at rfcmedia.com. Love for you to let us know what other Equilibrium beers you guys like if you're up in that Middletown, New York area. It's always good to hear from listeners to give us suggestions on things. And we haven't done the email bag in a while. I'm sure we have some people who've written for advice that we're completely ignoring. So
have we checked the email in a while?
I don't check it as often as I should, but I'll be checking it this week. So if you got, relationship problems, whatever you got, we'll help you out. We're like a combination of
marital advice, relationship problems, beer questions.
Dear Abby and people who like to drink. I don't know if Abby likes to drink or not, but we do. And so we'll offer you advice that is at least as honest as our drinking allows us to be, and that's a pretty good thing. Mention some cigars to watch for. The $150 Monte Cristo, and also mentioned the Casada Oktoberfest. But Warp Cigars is also coming back with something new. They debuted 3 brands about a decade ago: the El Oso, the Don Reinaldo, and the La Colmena, which all had the unique characteristic of not only being made in the United States, but made at El Titan de Bronze, a small factory in the heart of the Little Havana district of Miami. So to mark the 10th anniversary of this, they're releasing a trio of limited edition cigars to commemorate each brand. The first, the El Oso, which means the oso in Spanish. I do know it means bear. I still love that joke. The first, the El Oso 10th anniversary, began shipping to retailers already about a month ago. The cigar's bands not only feature the image of a bear, the sizes in the regular line are dubbed Cub, Mama, and Papa as they increase in size. And the El Oso 10th anniversary is the biggest cigar in the line yet, measuring 6 inches by 50. It's a 50 ring gauge called Grand Papa.
Nice.
So that's something to look.
You mentioned the De Bronze factory. I had the El Titan a while back from Partagas, the El Titan de Bronze, which was made there, and it was a $23 cigar, and it was pretty good.
This new smoke, by the way, is going to be about $25 a piece. So it seems like there is a real trend in cigar companies' new releases being this super premium, at least in the pricing range. Maybe not all $150 a piece, but at least a lot of them are in this higher price range that I've been finding that are coming out.
I kind of like when a cigar company has a premium offer. I really like Rocky Patel, like the There's quite a few others that when they have a premium offer, it's nice to reach out and try that.
Yeah, it is.
Unlike some cigars who are so expensive, David, that like every single one that you buy is in that price range.
Hang on, I'm writing them a check because you mentioned their name. I think it's like saying Super Bowl. Oh crap! Yeah, but no, you're right. It does seem like a lot of companies are releasing those super premium, but you got to hand it to somebody like Rocky. He releases his super premium, super expensive, and at the same time, a more budget-oriented. And the budget-oriented one from the last thing he did was
that
so
DBS,
good.
though.
Yes, I'm telling you.
The DBS was outrageous
So
and
good.
it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, we are going to take a break, and we will be back. Drinking news is only moments away. Plus, we have more to taste, including some Ron Cartavio. A lot of guys named Ron, as we mentioned, in the rum business. We'll get to one of their rums coming up next on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I want to say happy birthday to our buddy Steve Robinson, who had a birthday this week. And Steve is always one of my favorite macro beer guys. We had him on before when we did like the light beer blind taste tests and stuff. And he's always fun to have on, but he is not a craft beer guy.
Not
in
at
fact,
all. He's anti-craft almost.
In fact, he has a tendency to refer to any craft beers that we have in the refrigerator here as, oh, those are cruise beers, he says. So, which I kind of appreciate in a way. It feels like I'm being recognized.
Yeah, exactly.
In some sort of important way. Anyway, happy birthday, Steve. We will drink some rum here in your honor. And not just any rum, by the way. This is the Ron Cartavio XO. It's an 18-year Anjos rum from Peru. And I went, I paid about $60 for this bottle.
Magnificently crafted from the most precious reserve barrels.
But when I was online looking for some information about it, just to be able to talk about it, I noticed that the price can range from that $60 to well over $100, depending on where you buy it.
For the same bottle?
Yeah, the same bottle.
Wow.
So very interesting. But as Ian can already tell, I did move into safety mode and cleared the neck of the bottle. And
You did. You made sure.
I
I didn't have any problems opening this, as a matter of fact. And there were no spills.
So
Whatever.
I will tell you that I have already tasted this, but I'm very curious to get your take on it.
Magnificently crafted from the most precious reserve barrels Cartavio lays claim to. These exquisite reserves blended into a complex, sophisticated, smooth profile. This 18-year Solera XO is undeniably one of the best rums in the world.
We have had Ron Cartavio rums on the show before, but we have not had, to the best of my knowledge, this one.
So it's interesting. They talk about the blending of the rums.
Right.
Because when we talk about whiskeys, a lot of times we don't think about the blending that happens. Like when you think of blended whiskey, you think of it being blended outside with some other stuff.
Right.
Rum, however, is generally blended in-house.
Right.
To create a specific profile, and it has some different rules to it as well. This smells. It's got a little bit of delicateness to it, but kind of with a stronger backbone.
Agreed.
Interesting.
It does, on the nose, give you the impression that it's going to have a little kick to it.
It's such an interesting nose. It's
but I get a little bit of the maple, and I get a little bit of, is it salt? Do I get
there's
a
a bourbon-like
nose?
note to it
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah,
that
there
is
is.
very interesting.
So it'll be interesting to see if you pick that up when you actually drink it.
It's super interesting. Let's see. Oh. Okay. Lots of burnt caramel and
Burnt caramel,
caramelized
vanilla,
cane sugar,
maple.
vanilla all day long.
Yeah.
Maple.
I am going to just say I think this rum is outstanding. One of the better rum ones that we have had
This is
in a while.
this is nothing like. Well, I don't want to say nothing like the nose. Like the nose is a little bit of a hint, but that backbone in the nose becomes that super punchy.
100%. Yeah.
Super punchy bourbony sweetness that's coming through in here, and then on top of that, then you get the sugar cane kind of finish on it and aftertaste.
Right. And what's interesting is the heat on it comes after the finish. You get that sugarcane finish that you were mentioning, Ian. And then when you just kind of sit there and savor it for a minute, then you get a little heat that comes and gives you a little rum kiss on the end.
Product of Peru.
I think this is just absolutely an outstanding rum.
This is rum of a very different style than I'm used to drinking. I love like the funky plantation rums and stuff like that. This is a very straight up rum, like very kind of down the middle of what you think of rum.
All right, so let me
It's
just
real good.
let me put this thought in your mind. Take a sip of this as we're headed to commercial here. Take a sip of this. Then I just want to put this in your mind. Arturo Fuente Hemingway short story. How great would that go?
Proposed
with this?
pairing. Very nice.
Yes, I like it. We're going to take a break, and it is important to take this break because drinking news, my friends, is next on Smoking Toasted. I just want to say as we open this segment and before we get to drinking news, hot damn, this is good rum.
This is really good rum.
Really, really good. It's one of those things I have a feeling is going to get passed around a little after the show.
That bottle's going to get beat up a little bit.
Yep.
Like that Henry McKenna. We drank a full half of that bottle
That
last
was
week.
good last week, though. It really was. I enjoyed that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for the most popular feature on our show. No, we do not know why, but that just appears to be the case, and we appreciate you sticking with us until we get to today's edition of Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Had to do Keegan, our friend Keegan, on the line because Keegan is leaving us this week, so he's going to be doing like undersea exploration or something.
We're going to miss that guy.
So,
we're going to miss you, Keegan.
He will be missed. Thank you, Keegan, for keeping our board running and keeping us on the air here. We appreciate it. All right, for today's drinking news, we return, as you always knew that we would, to the state that provides us with the lion's share of drinking news stories, which of course is
Nebraska?
Idaho.
Oh.
Yeah, just seeing if you were paying attention. It's not Idaho. My bad. We return to the scene of many, many crimes and the story of a particular Florida man.
Florida man.
The Florida man in question is Joshua Shane Kreider of Punta Gorda, who first appeared on our Drinking News radar way back in 2003.
Wait, we have a repeat drinking news guy?
Well, he was on our radar. I didn't say we reported him. But back in 2003, when he was an inmate at the Charlotte County Jail after being convicted of theft, grand theft and burglary, he got to add a little time to his sentence, though, when his brother Adam and him, cooked up a scheme to smuggle cigarettes and rolling papers into the jail. Adam Kreider,
stashing smokes.
Adam Kreider, his brother, pointed out to his incarcerated brother that jail officials don't open inmates' mail if it is legal correspondence.
So they will not. They refuse to open someone's mail.
If it is
But
legal
they will.
correspondence.
They will put their fingers in the prison wallet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not intrusive.
But here's the thing.
But you can't open someone's mail
Well, this is
legally.
heavy like
I
a
want to make
file.
sure I understand this.
They can open your mail, but not if it's legal correspondence.
They can-
because that could be constitutionally protected between you and your attorney. You see what I'm saying?
So if your attorney sends you the file,
Well, if you get legal correspondence, the idea is
Since they don't want to intrude on your privacy.
right.
Because fingers in the prison wallet are not intruding on
Right.
privacy. I don't really understand what's going on
So
here.
Adam Kreider's big idea was
So confused.
put the contraband in a legal-related envelope and mail it to his brother. Now, while it is true
Is he mailing this from the jail?
No, his brother was outside the jail, mailing it to him in the jail. So while it's true the jail officials don't open legal correspondence, it is also true that they listen in on inmates' phone calls. So, having heard the brothers discuss their scheme, they simply awaited the arrival of the envelope and labeled it as suspicious mail. And if they label it as suspicious mail, that gives them the right to demand that Kreider open it up in front of an officer. So they pointed out that the package was indeed suspicious, and they were able to label it suspicious mail because, and I'm quoting here, legal mail is not usually addressed in pencil. End quote. So Kreider next hit our
were they using an actual number 2 lead?
Crayon.
Kreider next hit our drinking news radar in 2012 when he added to the more than a dozen times he's been arrested by being picked up for stealing batteries and a radiator and selling them to a metal recycler. So this is your like total like white collar crime here. Is what we're talking about. So you would think that once Kreider was finally allowed to leave jail and just be confined to his home, that he'd be able to stay out of prison by not doing anything really stupid. Yeah.
Maybe he missed it. Maybe he's like, 3 hots and a cot ain't so bad.
All you got to do is stay here in your house.
Well, unfortunately for Kreider, the house that he was confined to was in fact located in Florida. And as we have learned,
Florida halfway house.
With Florida Man, all bets are off. Police received reports one Tuesday evening this January of a strange person driving through people's yards in a Florida subdivision in a red side-by-side off-road vehicle. Now, that's bad enough. But what finally got residents to call the cops is that the man, who was identified, in fact, is eventually identified as Joshua Shane Kreider.
I mean, this guy might actually be like the ultimate Florida man.
He may be, because he stopped at one of the houses.
Please tell me there's poop in this story, because then he's the ultimate. He's the ultimate Florida man.
Well, what got him in trouble when the cops were dispatched was he stopped at one of the houses, knocked on the door, and asked the homeowner if he could use one of his electrical outlets to charge his ankle monitor.
Florida man. I don't think a person from like Anchorage, Alaska would think about that.
No.
It takes a very special upbringing.
It's just as Florida as it can be. Detective Eric Pacheco with the DeSoto County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to the scene, and he spotted Kreider behaving strangely, according to deputies. The detective reports that while he was trying to assess the situation, Kreider reached into his pockets and fumbled around, causing suspicious clicking sounds.
That's called pocket pool.
When officers handcuffed him, they found an open box cutter in his pocket, and then when they checked
open box cutter?
Yeah. And then when they checked the off-road vehicle, they found it was reported stolen. And while a check on Kreider himself revealed that he was supposed to be on house arrest. What? And it gave the details of his criminal background.
But doesn't the ankle monitor let you know of that?
So Kreider violates his house arrest, steals an off-road vehicle, drives it through people's yards, and stops only to ask if he could plug in and charge his ankle
And when
monitor.
he did that, was this one of those things where he came to the door and said, I brought my own extension cord, so you don't need to worry about me coming into your house or anything?
Because, of course he did. Because Florida.
When you have somebody stay over your house and they ask for that one thing too much, this guy...
Well, as stories from Florida
often turned that into an art form.
As stories from Florida often do, I found that this one as well has given me newfound inspiration. And despite the urgings from those far smarter than I've once again put pen to paper, or at least fingers to a keyboard, and captured my inspired thoughts in the form of a poem. And against the better judgment of most of my family and friends, I will share that with you now. And it goes a little something like this. A Florida man, kind of a dope, thought that house arrest left him no hope. Back in jail from his spree, he gets this advice from me. When showering, don't drop the soap. Reporting live from Florida, where rechargeable ankle bracelets are all the rage as Sunshine State jewelry. My name is Cruz, and that, my friends, is your
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Yeah, when the guy shows up at your door after driving his off-road vehicle through your flower beds and says, would you mind if I plugged in my
Come on in. Want a beer?
Yeah.
That's when he knows he's at the right house.
Yeah,
He's come home.
That's right. I only have Pliny the Elder. Is that all right?
Right.
Gosh. All right, Ian, speaking of beer, Ian has poured for us, and we've had the previous iterations of this, or at least the last 2 years' iteration of these. But this this from 11 Below Brewing here in Houston, Texas, and I love the illustration because it's the guy in the office. He's got his tie caught in the paper
shredder, yes.
and on the back, where above the description of the beer, it says, "That's my stapler." So, 11 Below Brewing. These guys do some really, really good work. You love the Oso Bueno.
The paper shredder, by the way, has a caution sign on it that says "Shreds Dreams."
I love it. That's very good. So this is their barrel-aged stout, and they do it a little differently every year. There's probably they call it Big Mistake, and there's probably a little description of it there. You know,
After being gainfully employed in Yellow Rose rye and bourbon barrels for about a year, the 8th vintage of Big Mistake is ready to work. Don't get caught sleeping on the job because this bad boy totally shreds.
So this was stored in Yellow Rose barrels. So I can't imagine how patient they had to be waiting for Yellow Rose to show up and give them the barrels, and then them being a no-show. Because you got to know that happened at least twice. Yeah. And they didn't call to say, we can't make it.
Someone likes their bitter.
Yeah. But eventually they did show up, and here we have the result.
So barrel-aged stout, 12.4% alcohol by volume, 69 IBUs. Does anyone care about IBUs anymore?
No, I don't even read the IBUs anymore.
Nobody cares about IBUs
ABVs,
anymore.
that's it.
ABVs matter. IBUs don't. Yeah, they're just north of Houston, right off of the Beltway, actually, on the north side by 249. I've been there a couple times. It's very hot, and the hot because it's basically a warehouse, but still kind of fun. By the way, this Big Mistake is so outrageously good.
It really is delicious. So it's sweeter than I would have guessed. I was expecting more of like the coffee, sort of bitter forward, and instead it's got a real sweetness to it, like a fruit sweetness.
It does.
Not citrus, more like
This is kind of approaching barley wine territory too, with its bourbony and its plum slash what's date kind of dark fruit thing. Dark stony fruit, if
almost
you will.
like the kind of fruit that you would dry and put into a fruit cake.
Yeah,
kind of fruit.
yeah, it does have that. Yeah,
and maybe.
By the way, my wife likes fruit cakes.
Maybe even I do too.
Wait a second, what does that say about me?
I like fruitcakes as well. They're the best thing that I have found. If you live in a house where one of the doors always wants to close and you have to keep it propped open, fruitcakes totally work for that.
Just don't drop it on the tile because it will crack the tile.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to be really careful with that. I remember when I was a kid, my dad, somebody would give him a fruitcake at Christmas, like probably a work thing. Fruitcake at Christmas every year, and he'd bring it home, and I would try to eat it. I really would. I'd be like,
it's the driest thing in the world.
The worst. It's the worst. Why do people give that as a gift?
It's like eating ashes and broken dreams.
I feel like it's phasing out. I don't see as many fruitcakes as I did, when I was a kid, kind of thing.
Now, you guys had a fruitcake thing up here for a little while, and I took it home because I thought, my wife likes fruitcakes.
Oh, yeah. How was that?
Oh, dry. Like, it was the worst. It was so bad. Even my wife was like, that's way too. Nope. She was like, wait, that's too. And she likes wedding cookies. Talk about dry. Like, what the heck?
Okay. I need you to go back to the rum.
Well, well, yes, sir.
Back
Let me
to the
think
rum,
about that for a second.
and then back from the rum to the 11 Below Big Mistake 2023.
Oh,
Tell me what you get.
All right, so we're going rum
Yep.
or ron in Spanish.
It's right. Because we always try to translate for our audience.
If my name was Ron, would they call me rum in English?
They would. And now from that back to the Big Mistake.
It makes it a Fig Newton, basically.
And it also brings out some chocolate, I think, that I
Chocolate?
had not noticed before.
Oh, and you get the alcohol a little more.
But you're right about it being a Fig Newton.
It's Fig Newton.
Yeah.
It's like a slightly stale Fig Newton, which is when they're perfect.
Yeah. I totally agree. You
know
want
what
them
I
just
mean?
ever so slightly
Just a
stale.
little bit stale.
Yep. Yeah, I kind of dig this
Yeah, it's
combo
pretty
of
good.
these two.
I'm going back to the
Back to the rum now?
to see what happens. You know, it smooths the rum out a little bit, but it,
It
doesn't
does.
do a whole lot
Yeah,
else.
it does. Makes it a tiny bit smoother, but that's about it. These two complement each other very
On the
well.
retro hail, though, you get a little more of the bourbon because both of these have been
aged in bourbon.
aged in barrels.
Steeped in bourbon, we like to say.
Steeped.
Yeah, steeped in bourbon. Well, all I have to say about this is the only thing missing from this is the cigar.
Agreed.
I would definitely go for a cigar about now.
Man, that beer
'cause
is
these-
good.
Yes, it is. Wow. Thank you, 11 Below.
11 Below,
and by
you
the
guys
way,
crush it.
and by the way, they're up for sale. So whoever buys them, please continue to make the Big Mistake.
Well, before you get sold, come advertise on our show.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back to wrap things up. It's Smoking and Toasting, and we are so thrilled that you're here. Be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. I just have to say
I
one more
love those
time,
things.
this beer is incredible. It's
We've had
just,
some good drinks on the show
we
today.
really have. We have had, from Boston Beer Company, we had the Samuel Adams Breakaway Blonde Ale, which was a wonderfully crisp and delicious blonde ale. It's a seasonal, so if you want some of this, you need to buy it. If you see it in your store, buy it. Equilibrium Brewery's Above the Clouds Double IPA was fantastic.
Yeah, that was outrageous.
And then, of course, the 11 Below that we just have been sampling here, the Big Mistake 2023.
and the Ron Cartavio, come on.
Yeah. So all have been good. I love when they're all good. People accuse us sometimes of liking everything. It's like, no, we just like good stuff. And
You
if they're
know,
all good,
I'm going to
we
go
like
ahead and defend that super quick. You know why we like most everything? It was because when we go buy the stuff, because we do, we're not like, we're not getting sponsored by any of these people. When we go buy this stuff, we're probably going to buy stuff that we think we'll like.
Yeah, generally speaking, yes. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, most of the time you're right.
Mm-hmm. Although you did buy Malort, in fairness.
I didn't buy it. It was given to me.
Oh, okay. Well, that
And so was the barrel-aged Malort.
And no one
the
said he
Basque.
bought it thinking that he was going to like it or that anyone was
Right.
going to like
Okay.
it.
All right. I stand corrected. I get it. Well, we are appreciative of the fact that you guys have been with us here, have stood with us through the show, and we have another pretty exciting show coming up for next week. And now that now that we've got some information on the states that produce and drink the most craft beer, we'll share that with you next week.
Nice. That'll be fun.
Yeah, so we'll figure out where and how your state does. Plus, if we have time to get to this, and I'm hoping that we will, we have a bartending expert who is named the best cheap whiskey. Now, we did a bottom shelf whiskey blind taste test.
That was pretty enlightening.
Yeah, it was, and we found a couple that we really liked, and a whole
And it
bunch
was
that we
not
really didn't.
Old Crow.
Yeah, it was not. It's definitely not. So, but it'd be interesting to see, okay, the bartending expert, what does he recommend for the best of the cheap whiskey? Yeah, so we'll get to that, I think, on next week's show. And we have, I think, some exciting things coming in the future for Smoking and Toasting from a guest standpoint.
So yes, I'm working on a few things, booking it up. We're going to see what happens. We'll have a couple on locations coming up to shake things up around the house.
Always
so to
love
speak.
doing that because we usually have an opportunity to smoke.
Yeah, we get to smoke. It looks like we're seeing about it right now. I'll wait for final word, but it looks like we may have Will Brooks back on for Herradura.
Oh,
pretty fantastic.
Man, he brought some great tequilas.
My friend Roberto to do some mixed drinks. We're thinking about starting up a bartender series, doing some things from the bartender's perspective. Might be nice.
Nice, yeah.
So we got a few things coming up here.
I can't make mixed drinks all that well, but I am really good at using a towel to clean off the bar top.
Also, haven't spoke to Dan Crowell in a while. If anybody remembers the old school Smoking and Toasting, he's the guy from Glenmorangie.
Yeah, we'd love to have him back on.
And he is so fantastic.
And I understand we're also trying to put something together with our legal expert Trey Boring, because there's been a lot of advancement in what's going on with the laws regarding whether or not premium cigars will be, lorded over, let's just say, by the FDA. So we won the latest court battle on this, but apparently that's not stopping them from appealing.
It's not good enough. They have to appeal it and try and get everything lumped in with cigarettes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what they're going to be working on. Plus, if we have time, this might be a fun one to do next week. A list chosen by experts, 24 beers you need to try before you die. Which seems a little morbid, but might be kind of fun to look at.
Some of us have more time than others.
They went a different way. It's usually 25 beers you need to try right now. This was just sometime before you die.
It's like, right now up until death.
Yeah,
bucket list it, buddy.
As long as you do it before you die.
Exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being a part of the program here. We do appreciate you listening to Smoking and Toasting and staying with us. And we want to give a shout out to Jim Jones, who is going to be taking over our syndication of this for the radio part of it. If you're listening on the radio, shout out to you. Thank you so much. And if you ever want to watch the video of the show, you can do so each week at YouTube. We're always posted there. So anything you're looking forward to this week?
This week? Well, yes, getting it over so we can do this again next week.
That sounds like a great plan. I appreciate it. Appreciate having all of you here. And I've just got a little bit of rum left.
Also, St. Patrick's Day coming up before I see you again.
That's right. So we'll look forward to that. That's always a good drinking holiday. St. Patrick's Day, and then not too far away from that, Cinco de Mayo. Maybe we'll get Liliana to return to the show. That'll be something to look forward to. Have a great week, my friend. We appreciate all of you. I'm two-fisted here, but I've only got a little bit of the rum left. And thank you, and good night.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all. It's all right when it's okay.